Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healy, and this time,
Vernon Piper.
And we are talking about Mythic Battles Pantheon. This is a brand new skirmish level game from Mythic Games, and has everything to do with, as you can see from the front cover, all of that Greek mythology, Pantheon, and all that good stuff.
Yes.
Zeus, Hades, Hera, Poseidon, you name it. I mean, a lot of these guys aren't in the actual core box, which is the basic part of what I'm going to be showing you here. Not showing anything that doesn't come in the core box, but they have, I mean, anybody who kept an eye on this Kickstarter.
Oh yeah, this went.
They went crazy with all of the models that come in this.
They went very, very deep into the Pantheon. I mean, technically that's the name of the game.
Yeah.
But I mean, they came up with people, and I thought I was well versed in Greek mythology, where I was scratching my head, who is that? And I had to look it up, and I was flabbergasted at the amount of people that they actually came up with, and did the research that they went ahead and went into this game.
Mm-hmm. Monolith was also involved in this, and with a game of this scope, to show you every little nook and cranny and crevice that's in the game, that would take way, way too long. So with the rules overview, I'm going to give you just a basic idea of how your turn will happen, and then you'll have to just extrapolate that out to all of the different turns that will happen within a game. So let's get down to the table. We'll give you a basic understanding of how the game works, and we'll come back with some final thoughts in just a few minutes. Now, before the battle can begin, each player has to choose their army. In a 2-player game, they're going to receive 18 recruit points, 3-player game 16, and a 4-player game 14 recruit points, with which they can choose units that will constitute their army. Now, as they're doing that, they're also going to be choosing how many and which cards they're going to be putting into their decks. Once that deck is constructed and shuffled, you begin the game with 3 Art of War cards, and you'll add 3 cards from your deck onto your hand, and this constitutes your starting hand for the game. So now, getting to our turn activation, the first thing you do is draw the top card from your deck and add it to your hand. And now you're going to choose a unit to activate. So, for example, we have a couple of Atalanta cards, so we're going to go ahead and choose to activate Atalanta. And so we choose to use her card, and then we can place her on the board. Now, when you're choosing what things you can do, there are simple actions and complex actions. There are 3 of each. First of all, for a simple action, you can walk, attack, or claim an Emphalos. For complex actions, you can run, deploy, or absorb, but only gods can use the absorb action. So for Atalanta's first activation, we chose to deploy her to the board, which is a complex action, and that's all she can do on her turn. Now, if I wanted to, I could spend an Art of War card and activate somebody else on my in my hand. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and activate the Amazons, paying their activation card and an Art of War card, and the Amazons are going to go in the same hex. Now, if you'll notice that each spot has a number in it. For example, this has a 4 here, there is a 6 over here, there's another 4 here, and a 4 up here as well. That is the number of units that can fit inside that area without being overloaded. On subsequent turns, the figures that we have on the board can choose some of these other simple actions. For example, walk is where they simply use their movement characteristic and move that many spaces. So for example, if I wanted to, I could activate Atalanta, and she could go 1, 2 because she has a movement of 2. Then, if there was anybody within her range, which is 2, she would also be able to attack those targets as long as they are within range and within line of sight. Finally, if she is already in a place that has an Omphalos, in other words, she moved up there, she could claim that Omphalos as her own, and she would be carrying it at that point. And then complex actions that she would be able to carry out, or any other unit, would be to either run, which basically gives the person one additional movement, which means that she could do something like this, 1, 2, and then 3, up here like that. Now, for an example of combat, let's say that I have activated Achilles here, and he is going to go and attack Leonidas. So he's going to use the first simple action of move. He has a movement of 1, so he can move in there. And then his second simple action is going to be attack. So Leonidas here has a defense of 7, and Achilles has a combat strength of 7, which means that he's going to be able to roll 7 dice in order to attack Leonidas. So we're going to take our 7 dice and roll them. And come on, you can do it. Okay, now we have this. Now, another thing that blanks can do is they can be used for a power known as Mighty Throw. Achilles does have that, so if he wants to, he can use one of these on the first roll to be a Mighty Throw, or he could change both of these into a 1 using his Achilles Prowess power. So he's going to use that and change that into a 1, and he's going to use this to do a Mighty Throw against Leonidas later on. Now, Leonidas has a defensive strength of 7. The dice only go from blank on up to 5, so that we can't actually score any hits on this initial roll, so we're going to have to resolve a second assault. In order to do that, we need to have 5s. So we have 2 4s here, and we can sacrifice these to add +1 to both of those. So these would be taken away, and these would become 5s. Like such. This, since it is unusable, will simply become a 1 to be added during the second assault. So now we can take these 2 5s that were rolled, and we're still trying to get over Leonidas's defense value of 7, equal to or over. So we have 5 plus, okay, so we have 5 plus 2, and then 5 plus 2 again. That's 7, which do score hits. We actually don't even need these 2 things here. So since we scored 2 hits against Leonidas, his thing will be clicked down twice. And now, because of the Mighty Throw that we rolled, that blank on the original, because Achilles does have the ability of Mighty Throw, we can take Leonidas and choose an adjacent place to put him to, granted that it's a valid move. So we simply would just push him back 1 area like that. Now, if I had rolled blanks on that second assault, it would actually negate that 5, that original 5, completely. So there is a risk in launching a second assault, but when the attack, the defense value of the other unit is so high, it's almost necessary, especially if it goes above a 5, because a 5 is the highest you can roll on that. And that's generally how this game ebbs and flows, with one person starting their turn by drawing a card, using and activating their heroes as much as they possibly can, or maybe even passing. And if you pass on your turn, you can actually draw a second card from the top of your deck. It just depends upon the situation that you find yourself in. Maybe you want to pass, maybe you don't want to pass. You don't want to give too much momentum to the other player. But generally speaking, that's how the game goes, with the game ending depending upon whatever scenario you're playing. If you're just doing a skirmish, you're trying to kill the other person's deity before they kill yours, or absorb a number of omphalos, 4 omphalos, before your opponent does, and whoever is able to accomplish those winning conditions first is the winner. All right, so there you have it. A very basic understanding of how each round kind of plays out, how combat works and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, what did you think, Vernon? What do you think about this game?
For me, this is top 2 of the
top 2
skirmish games.
Okay.
2-player wise and above. I mean, you can technically do 4 players with this game.
Right, yeah.
But, I mean, to me, there isn't any greater skirmish game than HeroScape. I mean, building terrain and things like that. that was the first game that brought me into board gaming.
So there's a nostalgia factor with Heroescape.
Yes, okay. But I mean, this one is right there. I mean, you have the terrain that comes in the game. That you can build the rocks. You have the trees and things like that, where you have it as well. But it's all 3D in Heroescape. Yeah, and I really like that. I kind of wish there was something like that in this game, but I mean, with the amount and size of the miniatures that you have, there's no way. Right. The base for Cerberus alone, there's no way you're going to fit him on something like that.
This is true. Very true. Yeah, there's so much in the core box that is so cool that you really don't need. We've had people talking to us about, oh, well, you can't get all that Kickstarter stuff, so why even buy it? And, that's such a weird concept to me because there is so much goodness in this core box.
Yes, yeah.
Why worry about not being able to get all the other stuff?
And I mean, you have the core box, and granted, there was what they called the Pandora box, which was all Kickstarter exclusive stuff. Yeah. However, they have 4 different expansions for this game that will be coming out eventually.
That will be coming to retail.
Yes. Eventually, and of course, the Kickstarter backers got that now. But you have the Hera expansion, you have the Poseidon expansion, you have the Titan expansion, and then you have the Hephaestus expansion.
Wow!
So the sheer amount of miniatures, and I mean,
much.
Yeah, in those boxes, I think only about 4 or less miniatures of those extras were Kickstarter exclusive.
Wow.
So there's way too much in this game to be complaining about missing out. Yeah. However, if you did, you're not missing out on something important and game breaking.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's all extra stuff that's added on top of that anyway. All right, so how did you feel about the whole the turn structure and how everything works there, being able to use your activation cards and then possibly play more Age of War cards? What did you think about that card-driven aspect of the game?
I felt that, I mean, I like the card-driven aspect. I wish it was a little bit more refined. There was something about it where the original game, because I don't know if anybody knew that, the Mythic Battles came from a POG version. When you play with that game, your units all start on the map already. Yeah. And so this one, I mean, if you get the wrong kind of card draw and you don't shuffle them properly, because that is the biggest downfall I've seen in this game, where if you have too many units, you're not getting those cards. They might be on the bottom of your deck.
Yeah.
And so you're having to play a card to activate them to put them out on the map, and then you have to wait whole.
Then that card's gone.
And yes,
and you have to wait for another one to get it. See, that's one of the things that I didn't like about the game was I thought it kind of chugged along a little bit too slowly at the beginning of the game.
Yes,
where it's just that thing. If I have like a rainbow of different characters that are in my hand. It's like, okay, I can do this, but now I can't do anything with him. He's just kind of like a sitting duck.
Yes. Yeah.
And waiting to be attacked. Sure, he's on my board edge, and you'll have to traverse the board a little bit to get a shot at him. But
if I was able enough to draw lucky cards in my hand,
right,
I'm crossing over, and not even to attack you, I'm coming to the middle.
To the Omphalos.
To take the Omphalos back to my deity.
Right.
So
going first is a huge advantage as well.
Yes.
Also depending upon what side of the board you're on. If you're on what I at least on one of the boards we played on, there is definitely a short side.
The Tartarus.
Yeah, the Tartarus board. It definitely has a short side where there's fewer spaces in between to where the Ophalos are than on the other side of the board. So the last time we played, I was on the long side, which had, I think, 3 spaces to the nearest Omphalos, and you were on the short side and only had 2 spaces.
Yes.
And he went first.
And when we drafted, you ended up, unfortunately, drafting people that were slow walkers.
Ranged, but slow.
Yes, and I had speed.
Yeah.
Like, I had people who would move 2, go grab an Omphalo, and then come back on their second activation.
Right.
Or, well, technically third, because their first activation doesn't count.
It just comes on the board, right. So, yeah, that was the one thing that I didn't really like too much, is that we had to use our first card to put them on the board. I didn't like that at all. But really, that's one of the only things that I disliked. Now, initially, the dice. Wow. Oh my goodness, was that so hard to understand?
That is it's a convoluted system, but I can see the reasoning behind it. They didn't. I don't know if they just didn't want to go straight numbers and they wanted to do a callback because it's the same exact dice system that it was in the POG version.
Yeah.
And it made just as much sense in the POG version, though, when you first started playing it, where, okay, I roll my 6 dice, I have a 2, a 3, a 3, a 4, and a 5. Well, you only have 2 5s and 2 1s.
Yeah.
And you're looking at it, scratching your head, and you're looking in the rule book trying to make sense of it, and finally...
It just clicks. Yeah. There's a point at which you go, oh, okay, now I get it. But there's a little bit of a churn to get there.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the only thing initially that I disliked about it, along with the being able to activate and just have to put out on the board that first activation. But the dice kind of grew on me. It's not that difficult to understand once you understand it, which is kind of
when we played the
weird
third
statement
time
to make.
For both of us, we played completely correct. And it made a huge difference to me.
Yeah.
Because having that second attack be negated if you get a blank on your roll.
Right.
To me, I felt like that was a lot more strategy to the game because you might move someone up and hope that other player is going to just roll
just
poorly.
Whiff, yeah. So, yeah, that's cool. I like that. Now, the miniature quality, I guess we got to talk about that, is off the chain. These miniatures are amazingly crafted. They're not that fragile either.
No, I mean, when I ended up pulling them out of the box, I was worried because, there's a lot of...
very thin.
Thin spears and swords, and if you look at games like... obviously, Blood Rage is one of our favorites.
Yeah.
You pull that out of the box, sometimes, I will say probably 75% of the time, you're getting droopy spears.
Yeah.
And it's not hard to fix. You just throw them in some hot water, splash some cold water on them,
or
straight.
Or a hairdryer.
Or a hairdryer.
Hairdryer works.
Although I did that one time, but it wasn't a hairdryer, it was a heat gun. Don't use a heat gun when trying to meld your miniatures in the proper spots. Otherwise, they just melt.
Unless you're trying to make a puddle of ooze.
Yes. But no, I mean, Hades with his spear that sticks straight out.
Yeah.
It doesn't move. It's not bent at all, coming right out of the box.
I'm not savvy on the different kinds of materials that can be used, but whatever they used on these, it's strong, it's not brittle, and it does not droop like most other models do.
If anyone's familiar with the Conan Kickstarter, because obviously Monolith did that one as too, they use the same materials in Conan on their miniatures.
Right.
So if you're familiar with the Conan miniatures, you're getting the same quality.
Yeah.
There's actually, I think, a little bit step up of details. Versus the Conan one to this one. I feel like the sculptors, whoever they used for this game, were a little bit more detail oriented than Conan. Because, I mean, if anybody's played Conan, the Conan miniature by himself is not that great. But this one, I mean, every single one is out of the park.
Yeah, they're all really good. They're all really good. So your component quality, as far as miniatures are concerned, are pretty good. Now, the scenery, I guess you could say, is left something to be desired. So
the scenery that came with this, and I'm pretty sure you've said when we talked about the gameplay.
I didn't actually show any of the scenery.
Okay. It's cardboard. You get cardboard trees, and if anybody's played photosynthesis, you might as well just swap out the trees that you have there. They also have rocks that were supposed to be able to be put together, and I kind of talked about at the beginning of the video, but they don't work.
Yeah.
I actually threw them out. I'm going to have to make my own. And I mean, it's not necessary. On the map itself, it shows you.
It gives you all of that stuff.
It tells you what they are. I mean, they're just 3D gee whiz scenario things. However, for some characters, it does matter. Hercules, for example, has the ability to take one of the 3D sceneries and throw it at another unit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was not impressed at all with the fact that they went that way with the scenery.
I guess you have to kind of cut corners somewhere.
Well, and also, I mean, there's only so much space in this box.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, 2/3 of this box is filled with miniatures.
Yeah.
The other stuff is your rule book and your map. So there's no other space in here.
Right.
But yeah, that was iffy on me. But I mean, you can easily replace them. They do have the terrain kit that is available to purchase as well. So that actually comes with columns, because there's a column one, and trees. However, they don't offer a replacement for the rocks, which I am kind of disappointed on.
Pretty sure we could go outside and find some replacements for the rocks.
I hope so. But
you
then
probably
I have to paint
them too.
Yeah,
Exactly. Weirdo. Anyway, 2 to 4 players, 60 to 90 minutes. What do you think? 60 to 90 minutes. That's pretty right on.
Yeah,
for a 2-player game.
I would say our went a little bit over 60 each time we've played. And I played a 3-player, and it was just above 90. Okay. But it was with 2 brand new people. Right. So I believe the learning curve will shorten the length of time. Gotcha. And I mean, that's pretty much the same with any game. However, I will say when I did play the 3-player game, it was a bit of a downtime. Because, you're sitting there trying to draw those cards.
Yeah.
So you're waiting for that other player.
Right.
And the way 3 players and 4 players work is one player has to fight another player and defeat them. And so it's interesting in that aspect.
Sounds a lot like Summoner Wars used to be when they tried to
do their 4-player
with the two battle maps. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Myself personally, I think that I would only want to play this 2-player. As a skirmish, kind of like an Imperial Assault would be in skirmish mode with 2 players, that type of thing. That's where it would probably find its home with me. But I can see playing 3 to 4 players every once in a while. Yeah,
I have all the maps. Obviously, I backed everything on Kickstarter for this, so eventually we'll probably show it off. We've
actually have an intervention plan after this. So.
There are 2 maps that actually can be put together.
Wow.
And my issue with that is the same as Summoner Wars, where why not just split them off and play separately? I mean,
have 2 different games.
At some point, you're going to feel that is what's going on, unless you're doing a team battle.
Yeah.
And I mean, that is something that people on the internet are actually wanting to do with this game, is do like tournament style gaming.
That's cool.
But at 2 players.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, it does come with a whole bunch of scenarios. I believe I counted them. There were 8 different scenarios. And then there's a bonus campaign that's in this box. I don't know if it comes in the core box or if it just got mixed in.
It might have
gotten mixed in. Well, maybe just disavow that.
I know there are PDFs that you can download.
So I mean,
Kickstarter page.
You've got plenty of stuff to keep you busy over the next few months as they probably begin scheduling putting some of this other stuff out as well. But what you get in the core box is plenty to keep yourself busy. With all of this stuff.
I mean, you're going to be painting this for a couple months, right? Everyone's going to be painting it.
Well, I don't know if everybody's going to be painting it, but it would look very good if you were to do that. I guess that's something that we will end on. What's your rating for the game there, Mr. Piper?
My rating for the game would be Hades 2-prong spear up.
Okay, so it is 2 prongs up.
It is 2 prongs.
Or is it 4 prongs because he has 2 spears?
He only has 1 spear, 2 prongs.
But do you have 2? Did you like?
I mean, I could go with Poseidon's trident and do 3 each. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
But I mean, this, like I said, one of 2 games that I really like is Skirmish.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've only played Imperial Assault, and I don't really like it as a skirmish game. So.
You like it more campaign?
I love it more campaign, especially with the app now. But this one here is, for me, it's number 2 is Skirmish. Okay. And if I had enough money, I would buy all the stuff for HeroScape, and that would be... But this one right here, I mean, you can't go wrong with it.
Oh, okay. That's pretty high praise. I'm gonna be right there. This was actually my one of my 2 best of the months. This one and Lords of Hellas was my 2 best of the month for January. It is a great skirmish game. I don't know if I like it better than Imperial Assault, but that's simply because I'm a really big Star Wars fan and not as big a fan of the Greek mythology and all that kind of stuff. But the gameplay, the models, everything that you get in this core box is amazing, and you would do well. I'm going to give this a seal of excellence because it is that good. And this has been a long time coming. The first time I played this game was 2 years ago at Gen Con. So,
well, you are going to be in great surprise when they come out with their next version of this.
Oh my goodness.
It is the Norse mythology.
The North. I only have so much time, people. I only have so much time. All right, well, that's it for Mythic Battles Pantheon. You basically have a seal of excellence and 3 thumbs and 2 thumbs up.
A bunch of spears.
Yeah, a whole bunch of stuff.
Don't droop.
High glowing praise. Go out and try to find, as always, try before you buy. I always say that. But this is great. See you guys on the flip side.
See you later.